Welcome, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. I love it. I want to welcome you all to Orchard Harvest. This is our third harvest. We started these conferences 2 years ago in Santa Monica, California, where I used to work at One Stop. We've got some folks here from One Stop that we're going to get to hear from. And we then had a follow-on last year in Amsterdam. And we brought it back here to Seattle, well, Redmond technically, right? And we're very excited to have you here and have the participation and the support of Microsoft and the Azure team. It's very exciting for us. So welcome, all of you. Share what you're going to learn. Tweet it, blog about it. These are our handles. So a couple announcements. The lunch break starts at 12:45, and then we begin again at 2. And then tonight we'll have a social at the Spitfire Grill. Tonight's social is sponsored by Proligence. Where's Piotr? Piotr from Proligence. So it'll be a really nice opportunity for us to get together after the day. We'll walk over to the Microsoft Visitor Center. And then if you have a chance, you want to go to the store and get a couple things for yourselves, and then we'll walk over together to the Commons at the Spitfire and have an opportunity to socialize, get to know each other, share ideas, and get ready to re-energize for day 2 and 3. Something that's important always to do here, because a lot of you may have seen or know of these folks, again, via really online channels and not in person. These are some of the core folks that contribute code, time, support regularly. So I just like for them to stand up as I call out their name, so you put a name to a face, and you'll beeline for them, I'm sure, at lunch. That happens a lot. Sebastian, would you please stand up? And Bert. Sipka, what's your handle? What do other people know you by? Skywalker?
That's SM Skywalker.
Okay. These are you hear the Oz? I heard somebody say that, right? Who's in Oz sometimes? That happens. Piotr, what's your handle?
Like the first name.
Okay. That's straightforward. And I actually apologize to Benedict, so I'm going to have Benedict and Zoltan stand up together from Lombik. Right. And Nick Main.
Oh. Hey.
Welcome. So these guys have all been really involved pretty heavily from the beginning, and so are very helpful resources for you guys if you don't already know that. As I click, it doesn't click. Oh, that didn't work out well. So 2 things also to keep in mind. Tomorrow, end of day, we have a Q&A panel. We've done this for the last 2 conferences. We bring some of these folks up. It's an opportunity for you guys to ask them anything you want, within reason, right? But it's a really great way to engage and get everybody to also hear what you're thinking about, whether there are questions about the future of Orchard, specific bugs or that you found that you still haven't gotten resolved, things you'd like to see, right? Anything at all. It's a really great opportunity, and it's a fun session for us. The other item is the interactive breakout session at the end of day 3. We've also done this the last 2 years. It's a bit chaotic, but that's part of the fun of it all. This gives you an opportunity to basically gather up in groups within the room for that last half of the day and do anything at all that you want. Any points of interest amongst yourselves that you get to sort of grab a little team. And these things have come up, like people have come up with little projects or modules that they wanted to build, topics of interest. And they just get together and they discuss it and they form sort of bonds and build stuff together, right? That's what we do as part of that community. Very special thank you to our sponsors. This cannot happen without them nor their support. So first and foremost, Microsoft Azure really has been a great supporter from the beginning. And again, none of these conferences would happen without them, so a big thank you. And then the Gigabyte sponsors, Proligence, as well as One Stop. The One Stop guys raise their hands. So One Stop is sponsoring tonight's evening, which I'm going to hold off because I want bated breath. Can't give you everything today. But tomorrow night's evening is sponsored by One Stop. And then Orchard Pros, which again is Sipka, the Lombik guys that you've met. Was it? and then Pluralsight and CMS Wire. Also, a very special thank you to Daley Mueller, who was kind enough to do our logo this year and provide that to us. Right? It does take a community of folks to help us make this happen. So who's in the room? It's always a fun little map for me. We've got folks who've come in as far as Poland and Hungary, South Africa, Spain. A few folks around from the Northwest, as you can see. But it's really fun for me to always see these maps and see who's coming from what region. If we do this as well. If you've come from Europe, would you please stand up and take a look around the room? That's a big representation of the room. That's awesome. That's awesome. Africa. There you go. Good. So who's from the East Coast? And it's a good way for you guys to say, okay, well, maybe regionally we can potentially connect and do things. We'll call it the Midwest down into the Panhandle, into Texas, which includes me, so I'll remain standing. Okay. And then we'll call it the West Coast. All right. West Coast is how it rolls. So why is that important, right? Because it comes back to community, right? So you can do a lot. You can have one guy commit a ton of code on a regular basis. Okay, that's cool. But it doesn't really grow beyond that, right? It takes a room full of you folks to be engaged, to use the project, to give it feedback, to commit code to it, to call out bugs, to meet each other, to find out other folks in your area that are interested in that project or who may not know about Orchard, right? I'm sure, how many people know of a .NET meetup group in their area? Do you keep your hands up if you actually attend? Okay. Keep your hands back up if you've ever thought about bringing something of interest like Orchard to that group. Okay, so this is something that we can help you with. Sorry, let me go back. So to foster and build and share responsibility, blog about what you're doing about Orchard. So if you don't have a blog, but you have a blog post, share that blog post with us. We'll post it out there for you, right? It's kind of heavy and hard to keep a blog up these days. But to write an article, that's okay, right? We'll post it out there for you. We have channels to get that information out there, and that's very helpful to us.
You can be on the homepage.
You can be on the homepage of the project.
Send it to us. Homepage. Boom.
Reposting articles you find and you like. That helps us as well foster the community. And then obviously tweeting out things that you learn or of interest. And then what I was talking about earlier is to bring Orchard to your network and the community. So we can help you with that, right? You have an interest, you're saying, you know what, I love what I'm doing with Orchard. Not exactly sure what I can do, how I can bring this talk to my group that I know of. Contact us. We can even come via video conferencing as an example, right? And make that part of your presentation of a Q&A portion of that meetup group, right? So please come to us during the conference and let us know that you're interested. If you're interested in that, we'll help you. Coming back to the concept of building a project or a module or something that's a common purpose, if there is something that you're particularly interested in, let us know. We might be able to know of other people who are interested in a similar project or module. We'll put you guys together. It doesn't have to be a solo project. It can be. Doesn't have to be. And then give back and encourage others to do the same. Right? That's the only way. So inspire each other, share your passion, and continue to build this together. And that's Orchard. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. Quick slide about me. I'm one of the founders of the project. I used to be the dictator of the community. Not anymore. It's this guy over there. Now I'm on the steering committee, and I have 2 startups doing stuff around electronics, and we're using Orchard for all our websites. If you've arrived recently, you might be under the delusion that Seattle weather can be great. It can sometimes, but it doesn't last. So don't be too confused. This is what it looks like most of the time. But we have coffee. So apparently we also have a tradition of ritually murdering teenagers. There are a few examples of that. And that show that was shot in Seattle does a fine job of showing the weather. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. We also have some fine tourist attractions, so I invite you to visit all that. It's a wonderful region if you can bear the rain. We also have some fantastic landscapes. And we know how to brew a fine cup of coffee. We also have beer. Try Mac and Jacks while you're here. It's really worth it. And not all of us are crazy. And we also have a fine tradition of developing software. There are a few software companies here, including Microsoft, which I can't thank enough for welcoming us tonight and hosting this conference. All right, so Orchard. It's been 5 years since we started the project. And it doesn't seem like it. So we've had lots of versions. We've had 20 releases since we launched the project, from 0.1 to the current 1.8. So that's a lot of versions. That's about one version every 3 months or something. And this is the third conference. So 3 conferences, that means that we can make graphs, because we have enough data points. Demonstration. So what is that? Oh, downloads. We have a great number of downloads here. Complete coincidence. So the trend you're going to see is that things are growing steadily. But what I'd like to see next time we meet is acceleration. For the moment, we have a nice steady growth, which is kind of linear, but it's nice to see it being steady, because when you look at other CMSs, there are not many that are growing. So there are more and more websites out there. The whole market is growing, but most CMS are either stagnating or declining in market share. There are lots of CMS out there. So we have an opportunity here to build this up and be one of the really important ones. Our ratings are looking better and better. Actually, you can't go much higher than 5. You can't go higher than 5, but as you can see, we are getting, really, we're sticking to that 5, which is good. So there is always an asshole out there, like 3 days before we post the new release, who is going to post a 4-star review, and we hate that guy. Usually, I sent him an email to ask him, well, why are you doing that? The code base is growing steadily. And well, I'm going to show who is responsible for that later. But it's nice to see. This is a really nice curve. This comes from the holo.net website. You can find all kinds of interesting statistics about the project there. Very interesting, and I'm very happy to see that steady growth, and it's actually kind of accelerating here. We have contributors, lots of contributors, which is a sign of good health of the project. You can see that something happened here. Can somebody take a guess of what happened here?
That's
Microsoft stuff.
Yeah, so beginning of the project, we had a team of 10 people, which is what you can see here. So we had contributions from that team, and between 2011 and 2012, the team kind of went to other things, except for pretty much Sebastian and me. And then you can see that we've recovered from that. Now we have a lot more contributors, and things are going well. And actually, this is who commits. Okay, who is this guy here?
He must be wholesome.
Yeah, he kind of is. Are you happy? Yeah, he is. So if you see the all-time contributions, you can see part of the old team here. Renaud, who was a great dev lead at the beginning of the project. He works for Google now. Suha, Nathan, lots of other people. And this is pretty much what's going on now. So here you have about half of the contributions that are made by this guy over there. And this is other people. That is a very important part to keep pretty much at this. This size is great because it means that lots of people are contributing patches all the time. Then we have Lombik here. Thanks, guys. We have Daniel Stolt from iDeliverable with Sitke. And we actually have Sitke, big orange box here. So those iDeliverable is responsible for all that, right? So thanks, guys. Congratulations.
Very welcome.
So all of you, get there. The number of available modules. This is also another kind of community contribution, very important. For a CMS, it's very important that people who want to start with the platform have, modules available so that they can customize the CMS to their specific needs. So growing that number of modules and themes is very important. We are still kind of short on themes. We have lots of modules, but people don't share themes as much as they should. Gallery downloads are going well, going up steadily. 6 million downloads is a pretty good number. It's not the number of something like NuGet, but how many do they have? Like 150 million downloads?
Over 200. 200.
Over 200 million. Okay, I was even. I like 6 million. That's a good figure. I like that. Close bugs, still going up. Not very interesting. This one. That I care about. Forum messages, and that is not. It's the only one that's not a straight line, and this is why. Stack Overflow. So more and more people are asking questions on Stack Overflow, and it makes sense because Stack Overflow is more searchable than the forums. If you Google something, you will get an answer on Stack Overflow most of the time. You had a question?
When it says forum posts, forum messages, which forum?
Oh, that's on CodePlex.
Is that your
CodePlex
preferred place to have people? Is that your preferred place to have people?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the preferred place. Maybe it depends what you're trying to do. If you're trying to have a discussion, if you're trying to get some general advice on how to do things, if you want to compare Orchard with other CMS, all that should go on the forums. Stack Overflow is kind of it has rules. You cannot post anything on Stack Overflow. It's questions, specific questions that will have a specific answer. So it's questions and answers. Forums is more for discussions. So there is a place for both. Yes?
So what is Orchard Pros then?
I was going to talk about that. That's a very good question. Yeah, so there is Orchard Pros, which is more like a Stack Overflow thing, but that is only about Orchard. And are you going to talk about that during the conference?
I didn't plan to, but so feel free to.
Okay. And there is something that you won't find on Stack Overflow, which is that you can offer rewards for answers. If there is a question that you really need an answer fast and you're ready to pay people for the answer, you can actually do that on Orchard Pros. So orchardpros.net. The number of countries that are represented, that is a very good indicator too. We really like to have lots of people from all over the world participating in the CMS. Okay. Oh, that was the slide from 3 years ago, where we had, you know who here, overlooking the community here. Fortunately now, it looks more like this. Ilan talked about that. I can't stress that enough. It's really a community that makes or destroys a CMS such as our chart. So thank you all for coming here. This is about you, mainly. And by the way we transitioned from that kind of centralized Microsoft community to something a little more chaotic and open is by actually having a steering committee that is elected by the community. The steering committee was a very important transition, I think, to kind of make that transfer of power from Microsoft to the community. And we have a benevolent dictator who is responsible for everything, so you can blame him for everything as well. But most importantly, it's about all you guys and about how. So today, and for these 3 days, you're here to learn, to network, to communicate with us and with each other. But we want you to take something away with you and share that with other people. So we want each of you to become your own local community center and radiate all that knowledge about our chart, all that enthusiasm. And this is really the takeaway. This is what we want to happen, is for you to have your own local communities and for all these to just bloom and accelerate. And the way we accelerate growth is by each, doing that little local explosion of enthusiasm. So thank you very much. I'm just going to end with something very confidential. This must not leave this room, and I will actually ask the video guys to edit this out. This is the next version of our chart 2.0. You like it? Yes. Cool. And that's all I had. Thank you very much. Questions, maybe? You don't have to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of a dumb one, but
Please introduce yourself.
my name is John Diaz.
Nice to meet you, John.
What's that?
Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you. So, no offense to you guys, but the documentation on Orchard is pretty tough to get through sometimes. Like it doesn't, especially since it's about two or three versions old. So I've actually turned to a lot of like Stack Overflow articles to answer my questions and things like that, but I have wanted to get entranced into the community, the forums. I wanted to know, like, how well do you guys, like, how engaged are you guys who were asking the questions, like, on those forums? Is it like we post a question, we'll get a response? Because a lot of times when I'm looking for answers, I really need, all our companies, we work for a multi-million-dollar company, and we're building all our websites in Orchard because we love it, but we've got a lot of questions and we need responses pretty quick. So if we were going to invest our time into that, I just kind of want to get a gauge of like how invested you guys, as the leaders of the project, are invested in the forums.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thanks. So there are a few things you can do. First, the most important thing I think is that you do find the information that you need. Okay, so it doesn't need to be from the documentation. But it's great to know that you're going to find something relevant in a known place. So when you need a specific answer to a specific question and you need it fast and you're ready to pay for it, go to our chat forums. That's probably your best bet to get a detailed answer. Stack Overflow will work too, the forums. So about the documentation itself, I totally agree with you. It's outdated and it's insufficient, but like the rest of our chart, it is open source. It's on a GitHub repository, and there is nothing special about the core team. The core team doesn't exist. It's all of us. right? So if you know something about Orchard, you care about the documentation, please contribute. So write an article, write 2, write 10, write half an article, start one, correct one, go to old articles that are outdated, make them up to date. That's a great way to start, actually, to get your feet wet. So yeah, it's open source, please contribute.
Just had to get from that
Okay.
in particular. What if we, and this is the type of stuff we talk about in Q&A also, but always appropriate. What if we made a poll available to the community, for example, where we would have something like the top 10 things that you would like to see documented better, right? And then we would have an idea, because there's documentation, and then there's, I really want to understand this better, right? And then we could, it's more digestible that way. Would that be something that you guys think would be helpful? It's a good idea. Okay. So we'll take that and see if we can, how we can make that happen.
It would be interesting to have a hackathon of sorts.
Yeah, and we can sort of take them off the list.
And kind of just in response to that, like I know like the focus of the goal is to, make Orchard the best CMS out there on .NET for Microsoft or .NET users. But I think as someone like a year ago when we were building our first website, I think we spent 90% of our time just trying to understand like shapes, trying to understand the infrastructure. And I think, and I would be happy to contribute from everything that I've learned from like the Orchard Dojo course really saved us, because it kind of like really broke down kind of the basics of it, the fundamentals of Orchard, and just opened up this world of possibilities for us. So I think maybe
blog posts are very important.
in terms of like pulling people into the Orchard, I think a lot of people want a .NET based framework, but I think better documentation will help make it more accessible. And again, I'd be willing to consider.
And there is something about
Bring
the.
that back up again. Like this is exactly what we want to do during Q&A. That's really a big core of it. So I'm sure a lot of you came here to have some of those questions answered. And we're here to do that. Right? So that would be great.
Yeah, about the complexity of the concept and the kind of steep learning curve. I think it's something that we don't only want to address in documentation. We also want to change the platform so that it's more approachable, and that you don't need to understand those concepts right up front. So that's something that we can think about for next versions.
And to praise you guys, like once you understand it, it's like I will never build another website and anything else again. Like it's just too.
You say that in the mic?
Yeah. No, seriously.
Please say it like.
I'm not trying to. No one paid me to say this, but I probably won't build another website or anything else other than Orchard again, because I mean you get all the power of .NET in terms of debugging, and it's a strictly typed language, but then takes great advantage of like the dynamic features, which was awesome. One thing that I loved about kind of the PHP language, and I don't like PHP at all, but I did like the fact of you could make objects out of anything, and the dynamics of that Orchard kind of takes advantage of now makes that just awesome. So
Checks in the mail, though. Thank you, guys. All right, we're gonna continue with the next session.